What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 200th episode of Go Talk with Marcus, powered by Poddex, fueled by GoFuel. Joining me on the show today as we give our final predictions for the NFL 2022-2023 season is Payton Doyle of the Payton Doyle Show, and one half of Stuff About Sports, my man Jerm. What's up, fellas? How we doing tonight?
Chilling.
Doing pretty good, bro.
It's always a pleasure to talk football. It's always a pleasure to talk football with these guys. This is officially like the first episode of the new season for the show. I know we've kind of thrown out a whole bunch of episodes over the course of the offseason, kind of get you guys ready. So we're here today. Got a lot to talk about. Let's jump right into it. Let's start off with an overrated, underrated segment. Fellas, and Peyton, I'll start with you on this one. The Philadelphia Eagles had a fantastic offseason by most estimations, right? Trade for A.J. Brown on draft night. They signed James Bradbury after the Giants couldn't find a trade partner for him. They just traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson with the Saints for what seems like next to nothing. All this improvements offensively and defensively. Are the Eagles this season overrated or underrated?
That's an interesting question. I would say rated just right. There's a lot of people that are sleeping on the Eagles, and there's a lot of people that are overhyping them, which thus balances out to just right. There's some people in the NFL circles that say that the Eagles have like the best roster on paper in the NFL. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as saying that. I would say that they should be clear favorites to win the NFC East, especially after the injuries to the Cowboys offensive line and all the pieces that they've lost in the offseason, such as Amari Cooper, who I think it's going to hurt their offense a lot. I think the Cowboys are still going to be good, but not as good as the Eagles. Why? Because the Eagles are a team that has an identity. They know that they're a team that likes to run the ball. They know that they're a team that will kill you in time of possession. And they know that they're a team that's going to take care of the football. They might not throw it all over the yard like other high-powered offenses in the NFL, but they have an identity. And I think that's something that is brilliant on Nick Sirianni's part. He gave this team an identity in year one. And year two, they have the pieces to build off of that even more. So I say Philadelphia is rated just right, should be favorites to win the NFC East, not necessarily favorites to make it out of the NFC.
All right, Jerm. So Peyton's chosen to kick the show off by being Switzerland and not pick a side here. Where are you, overrated, underrated, or are you Switzerland too on the Philadelphia Eagles?
The Eagles are overrated, and it's only because they haven't. What have the Eagles done? You know what I mean? Like what they're over. You can't. Okay, they got A.J. Brown. How many times has A.J. Brown led the Titans anywhere? Like where does he rank in the pantheon of wide receivers? People acting like this is Terrell Owens reincarnated in Philly and Jalen Hurts is Donovan McNabb. Is Jalen Hurts even close to being Donovan McNabb? He's he's nearly as close to Donovan McNabb as A.J. Brown is to Terrell Owens. It's good. Great. You got a number one receiver. Jalen Reagor didn't work out. Sorry. Now you got A.J. Brown. Yeah, he's a number one receiver, but people are already calling him a dream team. Players like that never works out. When the last time the Eagles players said that when they had Vince Young and a player proclaimed them to being a dream team, they fell flat on their face. And this Eagles team has that potential. I don't know how that offensive line is going to hold up. I don't know how the running backs are going to hold up. You're betting on Miles Sanders and his paper mache knees to make it through the season to help Jalen Hurts out. Not me. So to me, people are crowning them, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the NFC East is the NFC least, and nobody really knows what to expect to that division. It's not typically or historically, and that's going to change this year, but it's not like what the AFC West has been. It's not what the AFC East currently is. It's not how the NFC North is. So it's nobody really knows who's going to win that division. So they're overrating the Eagles because they look like they should be running away with that division. And I'm not buying that 100% simply because they haven't proven anything to me to say that they could. They were 7-9 and what? Didn't they make the playoffs or something? It's win the division at 7 and like a losing record or barely a winning record. Like I don't know. They're a wild card team or whatever. I don't buy it.
Yeah. It's definitely a toss up. I agree with you, Jerm. I do think that the Eagles are slightly overrated. I do think, though, that the Eagles are – this is heading into week one, I think, as far as the NFC East is concerned, the Eagles' division to lose. They're the only team that got clearly better. That's not questionable. Like you can look at the Commanders and say, okay, they have Carson Wentz, but how much? And this is not intended to be disrespectful, but is Carson Wentz really that much of an upgrade when we're talking about the production that we were seeing from Taylor Heineke last season? Like I don't know, because Carson Wentz isn't a leader of men, and Carson Wentz hasn't been that productive of a quarterback the last couple seasons he's played in the NFL, right? Chase Young was already on the PUP list. He was gonna miss the first 4 weeks. Apparently, he's re-aggravated his ACL, so now he's gonna likely miss more time. So the Commanders haven't gotten better. The Giants are still the Giants, and all we hear every time we turn on Get Up or First Take or anything related to sports is that the Cowboys just keep getting worse, and that there's no way you can trust the Cowboys because they don't have Amari Cooper and because they lost Randy Gregory and all this stuff. So this is definitely the Eagles' division to lose for sure. And I would agree with Jerm that the Eagles might be slightly overrated. I think Peter King thinks that the Eagles, not Peter King, someone connected to Pro Football Focus or Pro Football Talk, excuse me, has the Eagles being the number 1 seed in the NFC and going to the Super Bowl. I don't know about all that, but I do think, though, that the Eagles are a bit overrated, but they'll definitely be a lock for the playoffs. Let's stick in the NFC for a second. Jerm, this time I'm going to start with you. The San Francisco 49ers gave Trey Lance, it seemed, the keys to the city, but then a week or so ago, they extended Jimmy G, and now he's back in practice, and he's back on the roster officially as the backup. Trey Lance as a quarterback, overrated or underrated heading into the season?
Overrated. Overrated. Overrated by virtue that they kept Jimmy G, right? So what did they do? They said they drafted Trey Lance to supplant Jimmy G. Well, last year, he was on the roster all year, right? He made the team. If he was that damn good, they would have started him. Halfway through the season, we're going to replace Trey Lance, or we're going to replace Jimmy G with Trey Lance next year. Well, wait. Who announces that? So now you have all this turmoil. Great. You got the team on a time clock. Jimmy G has to win the Super Bowl. Even if he wins the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter, apparently, because you've already stated that Trey Lance is going to take over. So now everything happens. Jimmy G goes and has a surgery. He's off to the sideline throwing passes to the athletic trainers. And now you got Trey Lance leading the ones in practice. Preseason shows up. Uh-oh, it's not going as smoothly as you thought. And now the talk of Jimmy G ready to go to Seattle. Seattle's the team. And so he's patiently waiting to get bought out. And now you extend him and you give him a no trade clause to help him out. And then you give a no, what was the other one? There was like some other no franchise tag clause. So to protect him from you guys trying to hijack him, trying to be Kirk Cousins out here. So for what this means for Trey Lance is, hell yeah, he's overrated. How do you go through all this? And we're talking about a front office that couldn't agree between Trey Lance and Mac Jones. So there's already something going on in terms of that front office and their decision making and whoever's letting this stuff leak out. But after everything that's happened with Jimmy G and how you guys put the time clock in on Trey Lance and Jimmy G's situation, to me, it just screams that he's overrated. The bar is the Super Bowl because that's where Jimmy G has gotten you. I'll ask both of you, have you seen anything remotely close from Trey Lance that says, yeah, he could take us to the Super Bowl? Because I sure haven't.
No, I haven't. And I've been on record as saying that pretty much the entire offseason. I don't think that Trey Lance, aside from the fact that his ceiling is his floor as an athlete is much, much higher than Jimmy G's ceiling because he has a stronger arm and he's more gifted with his legs. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to beat Patrick Mahomes and take this team to a Super Bowl in his first year. As great as
Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers has a better arm and he's more athletic than Tom Brady. But guess who has more Super Bowls? Yeah. So I don't want to hear all about
Tom Brady. Right?
None of that matters, right? Like Jimmy G is one of the most efficient winning quarterbacks ever. The record, we've talked about it ad nauseum. The record that San Francisco has when Jimmy G is the starter, the difference is astronomical. The team is completely different and not in a good way team when Jimmy G is not the quarterback of that team. So I don't talk to me about intangibles. Yes, there's a place for them. They're important. But the most important stat is winning. Jimmy G has been a proven winner. And now you're putting your faith in some kid who really hasn't earned earn the chance to even supplant a quarterback like that, in my opinion.
And I 100% agree. Payton, overrated, underrated. Trey Lance.
I don't think in terms of the question that it matters regardless of if the 49ers made the right choice or not here, because I absolutely love Jimmy G, and I think Jimmy G is underrated. However, I also think that Trey Lance is underrated. Why? Because a lot of times in today's NFL, we tend to be impatient with young quarterbacks, especially when you're the third overall pick. You're expected to come in and perform and light the league on fire the moment that you step on an NFL field. However, anyone who evaluated Trey Lance coming out of college would tell you that Trey Lance was the one quarterback with the highest ceiling, but he needed the most time. I like that they gave him basically the entire year off last year and didn't really play him out too much. Now he has had an entire offseason of preparing to be the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. He knows he's the guy. Yeah, I get it that Jimmy Garoppolo is still there behind him, and it could be kind of a weird situation. However, it could also light a fire under Trey Lance to perform better, and knowing that you have a guy who's your backup who has taken the same exact team to the Super Bowl, so you better step up to the plate and perform. Trey Lance has elite physical traits. He has a ceiling that is higher than the atmosphere. I love Trey Lance. I loved him coming out of college. I think that if he developed properly over the past year, over his redshirt year, that he is going to be electric in his sophomore season now that he gets a chance to start.
I have a hard time believing that if the 49ers had faith in where Trey Lance could take if the 49ers front office had faith in where Trey Lance could take this football team this season, they wouldn't have signed Jimmy G to an extension, let alone a no trade clause and a no tag clause. Like, I'm of the belief that where there's smoke, there's fire, and there might be some fire here. And it's possible that we could see Jimmy G start football games for the 49ers this season. Like, and I get it, right? And I understand the whole patience thing, and they drafted him third overall, and at some point you got to get him out there. But this isn't a situation where the 49ers are bad, and they had a bad quarterback, and now it's like, all right, let's get this guy out here. This is as Jerm mentioned, this is a team that's been to 2 NFC championship games in the last 3 years, has won one of them, and was one overthrown ball away by Jimmy G from winning the Super Bowl 3 years ago, and was a drop interception by Jaquiski Tartt in this past NFC championship game to going back to the Super Bowl this season. And as much as I love Joe Burrow, as much as I love the Cincinnati Bengals and what they were able to do this past season, you can make a strong case that even though Joe Burrow is clearly much better than Jimmy G, there's a case to be made that the 49ers could have won the Super Bowl this season if they're matched up against the Cincinnati Bengals instead of losing to the Rams. Like, that's possible. So we're really talking about a scenario where the 49ers have been extremely successful in the last 3 years, have made the playoffs every single season that Jimmy G has started football games, at least half of the football games of the season, and has made deep playoff runs. Trey Lance, I get it. He's super talented, has a long career ahead of him potentially, and has a super high ceiling. But I just don't know if Trey Lance is the answer as far as replicating that success. And here's the thing. There's expectations on Trey Lance now, not just because he's the third overall pick, but because he's replacing a guy that's brought so much success to San Francisco. Trey Lance, I think, is overrated, and I feel like, in a way, heading into this season, the 49ers think so too. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't have inked a guy that apparently doesn't talk to the team in the offseason and all this other stuff they kind of said 3 weeks ago before they turned around and brought him back. So I definitely think that Trey Lance is overrated, and I definitely think that there might be a bit of lack of confidence in just how far this team can go with Trey Lance at the helm this season for sure.
I think the 49ers. I think the 49ers think Trey Lance is Justin Fields. Like, you want to. I think they look at a Justin Fields, and I would understand it completely if Trey Lance has shown us anything like Justin Fields has shown us. I think if Justin Fields was on this 49ers team and his talent, I'd be 100% on board. I wouldn't even be scared of Jimmy G being on the roster. But Trey Lance to me isn't even Justin Fields. Like, I think he would do infinitely worse on Chicago than Justin Fields is. And so we'll see. Like I said, I could be wrong about Trey Lance. I haven't seen it, but I've seen Jimmy G, and I just to me, I think they are overrating him a bit. Again, they're at practice every day. You know, I guess some would say re-signing Jimmy G kind of sends the message of what they think of Trey Lance really. But they already went on their word saying that he's going to be the starter. So now you kind of got to roll with it. On top of it, they drafted him. So now you kind of have to see where he lands. To me, his leash is shortened. He probably has 6 or 7 games. You know, if he's winning only 2 of those, Jimmy G is going to start. If he's 500, he'll probably stick around.
Payton, let's go to the AFC North and talk about a team that's in your division, a team that we saw go from being the worst team in that division to representing the AFC in the Super Bowl last season. Cincinnati Bengals, they made some improvements on the offensive line. They were able to bring back Jesse Bates, who kind of had a weird contract thing going on, but he's on the tag, I think, and he's back. Are the Cincinnati Bengals heading into this season overrated or underrated?
Underrated. The Bengals, for the first time in the history of their franchise, had a glaring need. And guess what? They dug into their pockets and they spent money on that offensive line. They needed to protect Joe Burrow. They were basically 1 second away from Joe Burrow finding Jamar Chase and winning the Super Bowl on that play. They needed to go get an offensive line. They spent money on that offensive line. They made it a focal point of the offseason. The Cincinnati Bengals, who represented the AFC in the Super Bowl last year, the team that almost beat the LA Rams, the team that we went into the preseason saying that they were stacked, that they were unbeatable, and they did end up winning the Super Bowl. But this Cincinnati Bengals team that was tough and gritty and were the underdogs all the way got even better. And now they have even more experience. I get it, the Super Bowl hangover is a thing. Guess what? Joe Burrow, all he does is freaking win. You talk about guys with an it factor, that is Joe Burrow. The Bengals somehow managed to be underrated going into this season.
Jerm, same question. And you're in the AFC with them. Do you think the Bengals are overrated or underrated?
I think the disrespect that the Cincinnati Bengals has gotten since losing in that Super Bowl is blasphemous. I've never seen an AFC champion be this much of an afterthought in an offseason. You know, it's been about Miami. It's been about Kansas City still having it. Now it's about the Raiders making a comeback. Every top 10 list I'm seeing, the Bengals are barely fringe top 10. They are supremely underrated. Their run defense has been underrated. They've been underrated all season last year. And that's probably a reason why they made it to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow is that dude, just like Payton said. Joe Burrow is that dude, and they have good talent. They might have another one of that dudes in Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon is nice. So, to me, the Bengals are being underrated because I think people are kind of forgetting the magical run that they went on and counting that as a fluke instead of actually looking at the games, looking how they're winning these games, looking at all the adjustments they made. Their weak spot was the offensive line. That was the only weak point in their team last year. The only unit on their team that ranked in the bottom half and not in the top half. And that's the one thing that they addressed this offseason, like a good team is supposed to. And so, the Cincinnati Bengals as a whole, definitely underrated.
You guys know how I feel about the Cincinnati Bengals, you know?
Go ahead, give it to me.
Give it to me. You know how I feel about the quarterback. You know how I feel about listen, Joseph Lee Burrow, all right, and the Cincinnati Bengals are absolutely underrated. Jerm, you said that people are forgetting that it's a magic run. I think it's the opposite. I think people are acknowledging that this run was so magical, that it's so unbelievably unfathomable, right, that the Cincinnati Bengals could potentially replicate that this season. Now, I don't think they can, and I'm not saying they're going to, right? And we'll get into that a little bit later in the show, right? And you guys, we talked a little bit before we got on the show how one guy, and Nick Wright, just for some reason blindly thinks that the Kansas City Chiefs are still the favorites to make it to and win the Super Bowl when they've gotten worse, right? The Cincinnati Bengals are one of very few teams in football that got better this season, and this is the team that was representing the AFC in the Super Bowl last season. Like, say what you want about the fluke, say what you want about a couple things not going their way or them getting lucky. Here's the deal, right? This is the only team in the history of football to have a 4,000-yard passer, 2 1,000-yard receivers, and a 1,000-yard rusher, all under the age of 25 years old. Guess how old all those players are going to be entering the season? 25 years old. This is still a young football team. This is still a young, dynamic offense that got their offensive line from being below average to, at least right now, average, with the potential to be a little bit above average, depending on how they all gel and perform into the season. The defense is the same. So you're telling me the team that has the same offense and the same defense, and as Jerm said, improved on their one major weakness, isn't supposed to be ranked in the top 10 of football teams in the NFL this season? Isn't supposed to maybe have an argument to be potentially a fringe top 5 team in football this season? That's absurd. The Cincinnati Bengals are 100% underrated this season. And I'm on record as saying that I think the Bengals are going to repeat as AFC North champions, right? And I get it, right? You look at the Ravens, you say, okay, well, the Ravens were the number 1 seed in the AFC before Lamar went down. I get that. Guess what happened to the Ravens? They got worse, right? You look at the Browns and you say, oh, well, maybe they can kind of stay afloat with Jacoby Brissett. No disrespect to Jacoby Brissett. No, they can't. And as much as I love Mike Tomlin and what he's been doing for the Steelers for the better part of almost 2 decades, the Steelers aren't going to squeak into the playoffs again this season. It's just not going to happen. The Cincinnati Bengals are the most complete team in the AFC North and one of the most complete teams in football. How is this team not a top 10 team? How is this team not a fringe or a lock to be in the top 5? Right? We give that respect to the Rams because they won the Super Bowl. Right? We give that respect to the Bills. We give that respect to the Chargers, who love Justin Herbert. They didn't improve at all at the one thing they needed to improve at, which is run defense. You bring in J.C. Jackson, you bring in Khalil Mack. Neither of those guys are run stoppers. So the run defense, which ranked 25th, or might have actually been dead last in football last season, could still very well finish dead last. But people give more respect to the Chargers than they do the team that led the AFC and represented the AFC in the Super Bowl last season. You guys know how I feel about them. Joseph Lee Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are 1,000% underrated. Now, there's one more team we want to talk about, and I kind of just mentioned them. The Los Angeles Chargers. They bring in J.C. Jackson. They bring in Khalil Mack. They still have Justin Herbert, right? They got 2 $20 million a year receivers in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and they've got Austin Eckler in the backfield. Jerm, are the Los Angeles Chargers heading into this season overrated or underrated?
Overrated, because they're talking about the Chargers like they are the Bills, like they are the Chiefs, like they are the Bengals. But I had it written down. I can't find it right now. But the Chargers' record against plus 500 teams is not good. They've beat up on a lot of bad teams and done it in spectacular fashion. And yeah, they have a couple wins against some really good teams. But overall, their body of work really doesn't. Their resume isn't as advertised, right? It isn't as great as people make it seem to be. So on top of the collapse they had towards the end of that season, when the competition really got fierce. Kind of like, remember the Carolina Panthers started out 4-5-0, whatever it was, and then they came crashing down to earth. The same thing happened to the Chargers just much later in the season. Justin Herbert's that dude. I'm with him. I like Justin Herbert. Keenan Allen's good. You know, they have some pretty good weapons. You know, and I don't know how the coach really is. Like, I think he's good, but we don't really know. We'll find out this season. But I think the Chargers are over. I don't think that doesn't mean I don't think they're a good team, but they're getting a lot of love that I don't think they've quite earned yet. So I'm going to go ahead and say overrated.
Are the Chargers getting too much love, Payton, or do you think they're still a little bit underrated?
The Chargers are underrated, and here's why. I get it that they have disappointed in the past. They've had talented teams, and they've come up short multiple times. And I get it that last year they might have not been as good as they should have been against good football teams, and that's alarming for sure. However, they did get better, certainly defensively. Obviously, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, that's a big, big deal. But they do have a guy at quarterback that is top 5, almost maybe even top 3 in the league right now, and that is Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is my pick to win MVP this season. I think he is that guy, and I think he's going to light it up. And in this league that is quarterback-driven and totally favors high-powered passing offenses, to have a guy like Justin Herbert who can throw the ball all over the field at almost in any window possible, that is extremely valuable. Almost can't even put a price tag on it valuable. And I get it. Brandon Staley was a stupid timeout away from probably tying with the Raiders last year and making the playoffs. Brandon Staley has a lot to learn off of his first year as a head coach. And just as we are impatient in today's society with young quarterbacks, we are the same way with young head coaches. And that is because we see so many head coaches in their first year. Matt Nagy, Kevin Stefanski, and the list goes on. Win Coach of the Year in their first year. That didn't happen with Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley has a lot that he needs to improve on, and I think he will. I think Justin Herbert is going to win MVP. I think that defense is going to be much improved. I think the Chargers are going to be extremely, extremely dangerous in the AFC this year.
I agree with you. I do think the Chargers are going to be dangerous, but I love Justin Herbert, but the Chargers as a whole to me are overrated, right? And to me, it's not because of the offense; it's because of the defense. Because the offense, I think, could be top 5. This offense could be the best offense in football this year, right? With all due respect to, of course, Jerm's Bills, who of course have the best quarterback wide receiver duo in football in Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. But my issue with this team is defense, right? We talked about just a couple minutes ago the Bengals and how they looked up and they said, "Look, we need to fix our O-line," and they fixed their O-line. I love the addition of Khalil Mack. I think the addition of J.C. Jackson is great. Strengthens the secondary, strengthens the pass rush. Here's the thing: Khalil Mack has a trouble staying on the field, and he's old. Pair that alongside with a guy in Joey Bosa who also has trouble staying on the field. But if they're both healthy and they're both available, could be one of the best pass rushing duos in football. My issue is the run game. This was one of the worst run defenses in football last season. Gentlemen, last time I checked, J.C. Jackson didn't rise to prominence because he's a run stopper. His IG name isn't Mr. Run Stopper. His IG name is Mr. Interception because he's a ball hawk, because he's one of the best corners in football. Khalil Mack is not a run stopper. Never has been. Probably never will be. Khalil Mack is a pass rusher. So when I'm looking at the Chargers, my one issue with the Chargers is, are they still going to be able to win as many games as they won last season, be as dangerous as Payton and I think they're going to be when the run defense is still a glaring issue? They didn't fix it. They didn't try to alleviate it. It'd be different if they brought in a guy that could stop the run. Then maybe I would say that maybe they're properly rated. But we're talking about the Chargers, potentially going to the Super Bowl, potentially making a deep run into the playoffs when they are still susceptible to the run. And this is a conference that has Nick Chubb. This is a conference that has Jonathan Taylor. This is a conference that has Derrick Henry. There are a lot of talented running backs and running back duos in this conference, not to mention Josh Jacobs in your own division, Javonte Williams in your own division, and he's not on the same level as those guys, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire in your own division. These are 3 teams you're going to have to see 6 times this season that have respectable run games, and you can't stop the run. So as much as I love Justin Herbert, as much as I love Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and now I think those guys individually and collectively are underrated as players, I do think that the team as a whole is overrated because they didn't address the thing that they need to address. And that thing, regardless of whether or not Brandon Staley gets better as a coach this season, their run defense could once again keep Justin Herbert from having a phenomenal season and missing postseason play. Like that's the reality of the situation for Los Angeles right now. So from overrated, underrated to buying and selling, Jerm, I'm going to start with you because you're a much more risky fella than Payton is. And I know you like to buy and sell much more than Payton does. Let's start with a team in your own division.
Sell.
Tyreek Hill has written a lot of checks that we're going to have to wait and see if Tua Tagovailoa can cash. Buying or selling the Miami Dolphins 10 or more wins this season?
Sell. Hell yeah, sell. Nah. I don't even know what their schedule is, and I'm sure it's tough. Maybe it's easy. I don't know, but that team is going to implode. Like everything that in team building, off-season move protocols, Miami's broken all of it. He went there to do podcasts. He showed you what his intention was. It certainly wasn't to win, because if his priority was winning, he'd still be in Kansas City. That right there is already a recipe for disaster for that team. And the diva wide receiver rarely works out. Terrell Owens, maybe Randy Moss, but is Tyreek Hill up there with them? I don't know. And so Tua, the most accurate quarterback he's ever played with, Mike McDaniel, the most accurate left-handed quarterback he's ever seen. Where the hell was that been at the past couple years he's been in the NFL? Where's that been at? I'm sure you can lose games, but I damn sure haven't seen any accurate passing from him. So it's everything that's happening with the Miami Dolphins spells just a recipe for disaster. I don't trust their talent around. Mike Gesicki is okay. I'm not sure about their running backs. I don't know who they're. I don't even know. I think they still have Raheem Mostert.
They signed Raheem Mostert and Sony Michel, I believe, in the
So the bones of Sony Michel, the bones of Sony Michel and Raheem Mostert, who can he play in half the games? Is he Is he able to play? Does he
He is coming off of a massive injury from last season.
Is he? Okay, so he still is walking around with his nurse's pass, and I'm supposed to buy the fact that they're going to, like, the wild card is the ceiling for them, right? Like, they're not better than the Bills, so it's like the best they can hope for is the wild card. All right, we just rattled off a bunch of teams that some of them aren't going to win their division because some of these teams are in the same division. So there's at least 2 wild card spots left, because I think most of us, I think all of us agree that two wild card teams or 2 playoff teams are going to be from the same division, at least in one division, right? Probably the AFC West. So where does that leave? Maybe 3 teams from the AFC West makes the playoffs. So I don't know. Just 10 wins is a lot. I mean, if I'll be surprised if they even become a plus 500 team. I'll be honest with you.
That's fair. Pate, are you buying or selling the Miami Dolphins at least 10 wins this year?
I am buying the Miami Dolphins at 10 wins this year. I think that I've seen the Dolphins win 10 games with a much worse roster than they have right now. And now you have the speediest wide receiver duo in the league in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. You have a creative offensive play caller in Mike McDaniel. All Tua has to do is not screw up. All Tua has to do is get these guys in open space across the middle, and they will make plays. This offense is going to be explosive. He doesn't have to push the ball down the field like he's Patrick Mahomes. All he has to do is be an efficient passer. Also, I think the run game is going to be a lot better than people think it will be. Yes, I understand the injury concern with Raheem Mostert. However, the player that you guys didn't mention is not Sony Michel. Sony Michel I don't even think is on the roster anymore. I think he might have been released.
Yeah, that's the wrong guy, yeah.
Chase Edmonds is the guy that you guys are thinking of. And this is a guy who is extremely dynamic, not only in the run game, but in the passing game as well. In a Mike McDaniel's offense that is extremely creative, in a zone running scheme that has succeeded everywhere that it's been, I think that Chase Edmonds is going to be a sleeper this year in fantasy. I think that he is going to be a sleeper this year, a guy who is extremely underrated in this Miami Dolphins offense. I think he's going to be utilized to the fullest potential of his skill set. So I think the Dolphins have an underrated running game. I think the passing game is going to be as advertised. It's going to be extremely explosive. I do think that the defense is going to take a little step back because I give Brian Flores a lot of credit for that defense over the past few years. However, a lot of the same pieces that are talented, such as Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, are still there. Now you have Javon Holland, who is progressing, Jalen Phillips, who's progressing. The Miami Dolphins, on paper, are an extremely good team, and I think they are going to win 10 or more games this year.
So Vegas has the over/under at 8.5. Are you?
Yeah.
So it's about
you're smashing the over on 8.5.
So Payton is.
I think 10 is just about right for the Dolphins.
So for me, 8, 9. So 8, obviously you can't have 8.5. So they're betting that they could do 9, 8, whatever, somewhere where I said. I didn't look at their schedule, but I don't know if that has to do with the change in coaching, the change in roster. Maybe their strength of schedule is harder than I think it is. Whatever. But I just wanted to throw it out there that Vegas has them at 8.5.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, for all the reasons that Payton mentioned, I'm selling. The Dolphins, I'm sure, are going to be a good football team. I don't have faith in Tua, but I'm not. The Dolphins won't suck, but there's just too much going on in the AFC. You got the Bills, the Bengals, the Ravens, the entire AFC West, the Colts. If Derrick Henry comes back as the Derrick Henry that we know him to be, he could somehow carry the Titans into potentially playoff position. Like, there's just a lot of moving parts in the AFC, not to mention the fact that they do still have to play against the Buffalo Bills twice and the New England Patriots, who could give them trouble. And the Jets, who, I get it, the Jets are bad, but are exciting. And
it's a division game.
It's a division game, and it has shocked more than enough teams over the course of the last couple of seasons. So it's possible. Payton, I'm going to go to you on this one. Earlier, I mentioned this team, and so we're going to talk about them a little bit. The Dallas Cowboys, seen a lot of changes. Are you buying or selling that the Dallas Cowboys are still, even without Amari Cooper, a playoff team?
I think the Dallas Cowboys are still a playoff team. I'm going to buy them as a playoff team. I think they're a first-round exit. However, I think in the NFC that the Cowboys are good enough still, even with Dak Prescott, to stay afloat, to grab a wild card spot, if not maybe win the division over the Eagles. I don't think they'll win the division over the Eagles. Initially, I had them winning the division over the Eagles. However, I've changed my mind on that. I think the Eagles will win the NFC East, but I do think that Dallas will have a winning record this year and still grab a playoff spot. Dak is still a top 15 quarterback in the league. The NFC is very top heavy. You have teams like the Rams and the Bucks and the Packers that are still like the top teams in the NFC. But then the rest of it, you got to duke it out for who wins the playoff or who gets the wild card spot. I think Dallas will grab the last wild card spot in the NFC this year.
Jerm, buying or selling the Dallas, and I know you don't like to say good things about the Dallas Cowboys, but buying or selling that the Dallas Cowboys are still a playoff team this year.
I'll buy that. I'm with Payton. I think the Eagles will probably win that division. The Cowboys are still going to cowboy, man. Like I told you last year, I've been telling everybody, I don't care what their record is. They could be 13 and whatever the math is now, whatever. It doesn't matter. They can win it. Matter of fact, they can go undefeated and win the division. It don't matter. They will cowboy it up, and the first playoff game they play will be the last playoff game they play, because that's what the Cowboys do. So, yeah, I buy it. They'll fight out with the Vikings or somebody for that last wild card spot or a wild card spot, but it don't matter because they're the Cowboys and they're going to lose anyway. So good for Dak Prescott and good for the most overpaid left tackle in the NFL, Ezekiel Elliott. And shout out, Michael Gallup is hurt. You know what I mean? Like, so who are you throwing to? CeeDee Lamb is out there by himself. So yeah, no, good Cowboys. Enjoy your wins, your winning record, but. Like I said, that first playoff game you play this season will be your last one. You'll be going 1-2-3 Cancun.
I made a clean sweep here. I am buying that the Dallas Cowboys are going to make it to the playoffs. Not as a division winner, of course, but who knows? It is the NFC East tournament. But I do think that the Cowboys are a playoff team. Before we get into our predictions, there's one more buy or sell that we have to do. Jerm, I'm going to start with you on this one. They were the stars of Hard Knocks this season. Jerm, are you buying or selling?
Buy
the Detroit Lions.
Buy the Detroit Lions. Now, am I buying them to win the division? Of course not. Am I buying them to even fight for a wild card spot? No. It would be nice. However, I've said it on Stuff About Sports. Rebuilds, like Payton was saying, we're kind of spoiled by the Zach Taylors of the world. The guys who come in, the Sean McVays of the world, come in with instant success. Coach Dan Campbell is under the Sean McDermott. He's more on the Sean McDermott circle, right? He starts slowly. Small improvements lead to big improvements, right? You have to set up a base. The Detroit Lions have been awful half of my life and probably all of your lives. And yet it's so you can't, it's going to take more than 3, 4, 5 years to turn it around. What you look for are small improvements, small steps forward. And that's what the Detroit Lions have been doing. The number one thing that a team with a brand new coach and a brand new system and a brand new culture, the number one thing you have to fix is the culture. Dan Campbell has fixed that. Anybody who's watched an episode of Hard Knocks or anybody who's paid attention to anything that the Detroit Lions have been doing on social media, the most important thing is not only are the players buying in to Dan Campbell, the city is buying in. That's all you need. Work together. He has a good coaching staff. And I wish all the success. I'm buying the Detroit Lions. And if you watched a lot of their games last year like I have, just because you're interested in the Detroit Lions, yes, their record was awful, but a lot of those games were like 3 or single possession games where they just simply were either too young or just not experienced enough to pull those out. As these seasons mount up, they'll get better at winning those close games. They'll accumulate the talent to win those close games. And you just have to stay the course, man. Detroit is doing it right. Like I said, things take time. Like you got to give the coach more than 3 years to especially it's a franchise like the Lions. And eventually, though, they're turning it around slowly but surely. They are turning it around, and I hope they stay the course. Like I said, unless you see a dramatic backslide from them, I expect them to win at least 7 games this season. I'm dead serious. If they can get somewhere near 500, to me, as an objective fan, as an objective person, and maybe a fan of the Detroit Lions, I would take that as a win. And then that's just another step to a wild card spot. And then once you secure that, another step to winning that division, because Aaron Rodgers' days in Green Bay are slowly coming to an end. And I like Kirk Cousins, but the Vikings aren't a powerhouse. So that division within the next couple of years here is going to be wide open to me.
And I agree with you. And just before we get Payton in here, just to echo just how much the city's buying in for the first time since a long time, or since 2019, I think it is. Week 1, their game at home against the Eagles, standing room only. It is the first time since 2017 that they've had a non-Thanksgiving game with only standing room only ticket. the city is locked in on the Detroit Lions, as they should be. A lot of people don't like to give a lot of credit to Hard Knocks and say it's just whatever. The Lions, like Jerm said, absolutely. Dan Campbell's changed the culture. There's a lot of good things to come from the Detroit Lions in the years to come. Go ahead.
Since he's been there, they've drafted really well. Aiden Hutchinson, just another corner. Jamison Williams, I know he's hurt right now, but even last year, like a lot of their defensive pieces, they're fixing that defense. They're turning that thing around. Jared Goff, hopefully he's the Jared Goff of like the last couple, maybe the last month of the season, and not the first 12 weeks because he was awful. But that last month, Jared Goff was that dude. Now I don't know if he's going to be the long term. This is the year to figure it out. But I'm definitely buying the Detroit Lions. Sorry, Peyton, go ahead.
Peyton, are you buying or selling the Detroit Lions?
I'm 100% with you, Jerm. I'm buying the Detroit Lions. I absolutely love what they're doing, and this was their plan from the start, from the moment they hired Dan Campbell. I remember they gave him a 7-year deal, and a lot of people were like, whoa, that's a little bit long for a guy that's going to be a first-time head coach. But that's because the Lions from day one understood not everyone's Sean McVay. Not everyone's going to come out here and in their first season, they're going to light the world on fire. This rebuild is going to take time, and Dan Campbell is the perfect guy for that, and he's proven that. That team, and just like you said, Jerm, they played in a lot of close games, which means that they were fighting to the end. This was a team that only won 3 games, and yet they really embodied that mindset that Dan Campbell said he was going to bring to this team, and that was, it doesn't matter how badly you're losing. It doesn't matter how much the season's over. This team was going to fight from the opening kickoff to the clock hit 0 in the fourth quarter, and that's exactly what the Detroit Lions did. The whole team is buying in. Just like Marcus said, the fan base is buying into Detroit. I think this is a team that will double their win total from last season. I see the Lions winning 6 or 7 games, which is a huge step forward in the right direction for the Detroit Lions. So absolutely, I'm buying into the process. I'm buying into this rebuild in Detroit.
Vegas has them over 6.5 wins. So do you think that right what you were saying, Peyton, right in line of what you were saying, that's double their win total. That's right around what I said. About 7 wins, I'd be really happy if I'm a Detroit Lions fan.
And they have a favorable schedule, right? Like they've got the entire NFC East. Like I said, they open up against Philly. As good as I think Philly could be, that one could go either way because that's the first schedule with everyone there. Right. They have Washington the following week. That's a win for them in my book. They've got like the Giants on there, of course. I think they play a game against it. Like they have a good schedule because aside from like the 6 games in the division, of course, they play other teams that are within arm's length of them either way as far as where they all stand in the grand scheme of things on the NFL pyramid. This is a team that, and it's crazy that I'm kind of saying this as a Packers fan, but I agree with you guys. This is a team I think could win 7 games. This is a team that I think could legitimately, depending on how things look in the AFC, and if they truly are like taking that next step, best case scenario, I do think it's out of the realm of possibility, like Jerm was saying. But I could see a situation where best case scenario, they could be on those graphics towards the end of the season where we're talking about maybe sneaking into the wild card as that 7th spot. If everything's going perfect, everybody's healthy, Jamison Williams comes in and plays the way we expect him to, and Aiden Hutchinson's having a fantastic season, that could play into the Lions' advantage because, like I said, couple that with the fact they have a lot of games against good to like average to below average to really bad teams on their schedules, bringing them there works for them perfectly. Overrated, underrated, buying and sell. First time we've done on the show, I think that was a pretty way to kick off the show. Let's now get into the season. Jerm, I know your predictions already, so we'll start with Payton on this one. Who are the 7 teams you have in the playoffs for the AFC?
All right, well, in the AFC, we'll start off. I have the Chargers winning the AFC West. I have the Bills winning the AFC East. In the AFC South, I have the Colts winning that division. And in the AFC North, I have the Bengals winning that division. Then you have the 3 wild cards. I have the Chiefs grabbing a wild card. I have the Ravens grabbing a wild card. And I have the Raiders grabbing a wild card in the AFC. So those would be my 7. I haven't really figured out the order of them yet, but those are my 7 teams in the AFC.
Jerm, we know you've got the Bills in the playoffs, of course, as you should. As a fan and just as facts for the Bills, this is what they're going to be doing. Right. Who the other 6 teams?
Just as a person who has the monopoly on the truth, the Bills are definitely winning AFC and snapping that number 1 seed overall. I have the Bengals winning the AFC North. I have, let's see. I went back and forth with the AFC South. I initially had the Colts, but after watching them run their starters in the first preseason game for a half, I am not impressed. So I will switch. I will switch and make the Tennessee Titans the winners of that division. And then I have the Broncos winning the AFC West. Wild card teams, I'll do Steelers, Raiders, Chargers. Yes, folks, that's right. I have the Kansas City Chiefs missing the playoffs.
I like that. I don't agree with you, but I do like that.
I know.
We all know I have the Bengals win the AFC North, of course. I mean, let's be serious. I've got the Bengals winning the North. I have Jerm's Bills winning the East. I do have the Chargers winning the West. I do think that the Chargers – look, in Kansas City's worst season, they still won the division with 12 games. I think the only team in the division that is capable of winning 12 games that's not in Kansas City is the Los Angeles Chargers. And I do have them winning the division at 12-5. And then the South, I agree with Jerm. Watching the Colts at starters that first half of a preseason game was not comforting at all. I do still think, though, that they are going to be better than the Titans by just enough to win the division this year, primarily because I think that they have a guy in Matt Ryan that's not going to give the division or games away down the stretch of the season like we saw them do last year. So those are my 4 divisional winners: Colts, Bengals, Bills, Chargers. I have the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Ravens in the wild card. This was a toss-up for me. I do have the Broncos missing the playoffs. I have the Patriots missing the playoffs as well. I don't think any of us have all 4 teams in the AFC West making the playoffs.
That's an extremely hard thing to do.
And it's on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think it is that we do potentially see all 4 in the playoffs?
I doubt it, man. Like that would be amazing. And I don't know what the odds are on that, but they have to be pretty long. And so, just how the NFL works, just how football works. One of these teams is going to disappoint us. The smart money's probably on the Raiders, but who knows? Like, there's a lot of change that happened with the Chiefs. People forget how the first half of that season went. They had a cupcake schedule in the second half, and they made a good run. But I don't know. I really don't know. We got Joe B in here saying the Colts are going to be the number 1 seed overall. Hey, sir, stay off the drugs.
So Jerm, we'll start with you on this one. NFC, 7 teams you've got making it in the playoffs for the NFC.
I have the Eagles winning the NFC East. I have the Vikings winning the NFC North. I have the Carolina Panthers winning the NFC South. And then I have the San Francisco 49ers led by Jimmy Garoppolo midway through the season.
Jimmy Graps.
The NFC West. Then I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because of all the turmoil. A lot of things happening on that side of town, but I think they will end up with the wild card. I have your Packers getting a wild card, and then the Rams getting a wild card.
So you have San Francisco, Carolina, Tampa Bay. I lost it.
Sorry, Eagles, Niners, Vikings, Panthers, Bucks, Packers, Rams.
Okay. Payton, you were taken aback a lot at one of the teams that Jerm threw in there. Was it the Panthers winning or the Panthers making it?
It was the Eagles one, right?
We know which one it was. We know which one it was. Listen, all I'm saying is I've watched every single game of Baker Mayfield's career. I've seen every single throw of this man's career. He's not winning a division over Tom Brady. I don't care if Tom Brady is 90. He will not win a division over Tom Brady. I can promise you that. He could barely even beat Big Ben, who was like a statue. Okay, like Baker Mayfield with this offense, I don't see them as division winners, especially since New Orleans is there, and that'll get me into my NFC predictions here.
Sure.
I have the Bucks winning the South. I have the Eagles winning the East. I still have the Packers winning the North, and I still have the Rams winning in the West. My 3 wild cards would be Minnesota, New Orleans, and Dallas. That's my 7 in the NFC. I think that Minnesota and New Orleans are the 2 most possibly underrated teams in the league this year. I think Minnesota is going to be highly explosive on offense. I think Kevin O'Connell is going to be that rookie head coach that wins Coach of the Year this year. And I also think that New Orleans is going to be insanely good this year. I don't think they're good enough to take the division over Tampa, just because I believe in Tampa's pedigree more, and I really love Todd Bowles as the head coach of that team. However, New Orleans is going to be an extremely tough team to beat as well.
Interesting. I have Philly. I have Green Bay by a game winning the division, but I have Philadelphia, Green Bay, Los Angeles. I have New Orleans winning the South because of defense. Right, the Saints defensively have owned Tampa Bay in the regular season. We saw them blank the Bucs last season when I think that was the game that Sean Payton had COVID. In Tom's first season, we saw them beat Tampa Bay 31-3. So Green Bay, New Orleans, LA, and Philly. My wild card teams are Dallas, Minnesota, and Tampa Bay. I do think Tampa Bay is going to be a wild card. I get it's Tom Brady, but maybe I'm the only person that gives a damn about the fact that the center of his O-line is really questionable. And as I've said several times, of course, the offseason, he's probably the only quarterback in the NFL today that still climbs the pocket. Like, everybody else rolls left or rolls right. He's the only guy that still climbs the pocket to buy himself time. If the center of the offensive line is not together, that could cause problems for Tampa Bay. When you look at the fact that there's a lot of solid defensive fronts across the NFC that they're going to have to match up with, that could cause some problems for them in this season. So I do have them as a wild card team. I know you guys don't have the seeding. Jerm, I already know you have the Bills as number one seed. Who are you guys' number one seeds in the AFC and the NFC?
NFC. Damn, man. Man, it's hard. It's hard because I'm going to go the Vikings. I like Payton. Payton talked me into the Vikings. I like Kevin O'Connell. I think the Vikings are going to be an explosive offense. I mean, if you listen to Kirk Cousins and you listen to Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, they are in love with this offense. I think he's going to utilize all the talent that they have that Mike Zimmer and his old dinosaur coaching wouldn't have. So I'm going to go crazy. I already put the Panthers to win that division, win the NFC South. I'm going to go ahead and say the Vikings are going to surprise everybody and be the number one seed in the NFC.
Peyton, who are your ones in the NFC and the AFC?
In the NFC, I still have the Rams. I think that they're going to handle business. I think that they're going to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. And I think that they might not make the Super Bowl, but I think they will be the number one seed in the NFC. In the AFC, my number one seed is going to be the Chargers. I get the concerns with their run defense.
Don't do it, Peyton. I care about you, man. Don't do it.
I have to be bold somewhere, and I really am buying the Chargers. And it just makes sense. If I'm going to pick Justin Herbert to win MVP, I'm going to rock with the Chargers to be the best team in the regular season for the AFC.
That's fair. I've got the Bills as the one seed. I've gone back and forth with who I have as the one seed in the NFC. It started off with the Rams because that felt like the safe bet. There was a small part of me that kind of wants the Packers to still be the one seed because I think, number one, we need it. But then I thought about it. We don't need that because we have a lot of young guys, so we probably need that extra game. This might not sound too crazy, but it could be because of who the quarterback is. I think the New Orleans Saints are going to be the number one seed in the NFC. I think that's going to be anchored by the defense. And while I recognize that the last time that we saw Jameis Winston play a full season of football, he went 30 for 30, and he can get his own 30 for 30 on that season. I get it. Right. But I think what we have to recognize is before he tore his ACL, Jameis Winston was playing really good football, was taking really good care of the football. And that was without Michael Thomas throwing them on the other end of those passes. That was without Jarvis Landry on the other end of those passes. That was without Chris Olave on the under end of those passes. But most importantly, so you've got a defense that I think is top 5 caliber. You have an offense that I think could sneak into the top 10 potentially. But also, what does Jameis love to do? Why was Jameis Winston throwing like 30 picks in Tampa Bay? Because he loves to push the ball down the field. You've got a guy in Chris Olave where that was pretty much his specialty in college, was getting those deep beater plays down the field. He's going to be the third option if he can thrive in that area. Of course, you have Michael Thomas back, and you have Jarvis Landry back, and of course, you have Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, which I think bringing Mark Ingram back could help the offense a lot more than a lot of people think. So I think the Saints are going to be the number one seed in the NFC. Now, We were going to do MVP picks, but Peyton's already said he's got the Herbert. He's got Herbert winning MVP. We already know that Jerm got Josh Allen winning MVP. You guys already know I have Josh Allen winning MVP. So let's skip the MVP votes because that'll just be a whole bunch of hoopla for nothing. Let's talk about Defensive Player of the Year. Peyton, who do you have walking out of the NFL season with the Defensive Player's top award?
Going with Myles Garrett. Why not? Why not get Myles Garrett a Defensive Player of the Year this year? He is, I'd say, the second best pass rusher in the league. He's extremely talented. Why not? I don't feel like giving it to Aaron Donald and T.J. Watt every single year. And I don't think that a secondary player is going to win it this year. So I think that an edge rusher would be the perfect guy. I think that Myles Garrett has a lot to prove this year, meaning not necessarily a lot to prove, but like he needs to solidify himself as the top 3 guy and really put himself in a discussion with T.J. Watt, because even me as a Browns fan can sit back and argue, like, I think it's a dumb argument to say that Myles Garrett is better than T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt has shown that he's a better pass rusher than Myles Garrett. I think Myles Garrett's a little bit better in the running game and stopping the run, but I don't think he's a better pass rusher than T.J. Watt. And at the end of the day, in today's NFL, being a good pass rusher weighs out being able to stop the run much, much more. So there's still a gap between T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. So I want to see Myles Garrett close that gap this year. Give me Myles Garrett to win his first Defensive Player of the Year.
Jerm, who's going to be the best Defensive Player of the year this year?
I'm with Peyton, man. I'm going to go with Myles Garrett. The Cleveland Browns need to win, man. After everything they've gone through this offseason, Myles Garrett, take a choice. Like, yeah, you could probably give it to Aaron Donald. I think the loss of Von Miller is going to hurt Aaron Donald. It's back to triple and quadruple teams for him. So I think you're going to see his numbers dip a little bit. T.J. Watt, he's good. Like, obviously, he's a great defensive player. You got Max Crosby's of the world, Myles Garrett. There's so many to choose from, but I think Myles Garrett's going to take putting this team on his back very seriously, specifically in the first 11 games of the season, and I think he's going to feast to try to keep this team together. I think out of necessity, just to hold. I think they believe in Deshaun Watson, and they just got to hold down the fort and try to stay at least 500 while he's out. And I think he's going to make that his mission. So I think that'll be enough for him to win Defensive Player of the Year.
I agree. I've got Myles Garrett winning deep play. We talk about this Browns defense as being one of the most talented defenses, but kind of in a way, we don't always see that show up sometimes. I think with Deshaun Watson, like Jerm said, with Deshaun Watson being out for the first 11 weeks of the season, this is the opportunity for Myles Garrett to carry this football team because Jacoby Brissett's not going to do it. No shot at Jacoby Brissett. I think he's talented. We've seen him in this role before as kind of the transitional guy until the road guy comes back, right? We've seen him do that before, and I think that Jacoby Brissett is capable, but the defense is going to have to step up, and that's going to start with Myles Garrett. Micah Parsons got a Defensive Player of the Year vote last year. Is there any chance at all, potentially, that Micah Parsons wins the Defensive Player of the Year award this year for Dallas?
No.
There's always a chance. I think it's highly unlikely, but there's always a chance, I guess, per se. But I'm not. I wouldn't bet on it. Like, I'm not going to bet on Micah Parsons, not even as like a dark horse.
Sure,
I don't think I would.
That's fair. Sticking with the Cowboys for a second, because he sees the world sunshine and rainbows and butterflies and happiness only, holding hands, frolicking in the meadow. Dak Prescott, I know none of us have him winning the MVP. Is there a chance he could be a dark horse MVP candidate and put on a really good season this year despite not having Amari Cooper?
No. Because why? Because Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, like, there's too many guys ahead of Dak Prescott. I would even bet on Kyler Murray to win MVP before him. I would bet on Lamar Jackson to win MVP before him. I bet on Joe Burrow to win MVP before him. And also, he's losing one of his best targets in Amari Cooper. While I think CeeDee Lamb is going to have a great year as the true bona fide number one option in Dallas, I think he's going to have a tremendous year. Don't get me wrong when I say this. The guy that Dak is most comfortable throwing to is gone. Dak was most comfortable throwing to Amari Cooper, and now he's gone. And I think that's going to hurt that Dallas offense a little bit.
He would have to break NFL records, and the team would have to be doing extremely well for him to even be in that conversation, I think.
That's fair. Let's talk about offensive and defensive rookie of the year. We'll put these two together. Jerm, who's going to be the best rookie offensively and defensively at season's end?
I drafted this guy in my fantasy league mostly because I went wide receiver heavy, and I need him to anchor my offense as running back, and I'm going to go with Houston Texans running back Dameon Pierce. I really like what I see from this guy. I think of Fred Jackson, some of those like not power backs, but not speed backs either, just straight guys who can get those yards. And I think I really like what I see from Dameon Pierce.
And on defense,
Aiden Hutchinson, baby, come on now, best player in the draft on the Detroit Lions. Exactly what the doctor ordered. He is as advertised. I've watched every single one of the plays that he played in the preseason, even though it wasn't many. He is as advertised. Aiden Hutchinson's going to be a problem, and I think he's going to change the trajectory for the Detroit Lions drastically.
Payton, same thing. Who's going to be the best offensive and defensive rookie this season?
I'm going to agree with Jerm on the defensive side. I have Aiden Hutchinson winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. On the offensive side, I'm going to go with the guy that I thought was going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year since the draft, since I found out what team he was going to, and that's Chris Olave. I think that, and you mentioned this earlier, Marcus, Jameis Winston loves to push the ball down the field. And that is going to be, he's not going to push the ball down the field to Michael Thomas. He's not going to push the ball down the field to Jarvis Landry. These guys are the move the chains kind of guy. The guy that he's going to push the ball down the field to is Chris Olave. He's the deep play threat in that offense, and I think he's going to get tons of looks. And you look at Jameis Winston's time in Tampa Bay. He favored Chris Godwin, who is considered to be the better, deeper threat than Mike Evans. Even though Mike Evans is the better receiver, Chris Godwin at times got more looks, he got more targets, he got more receptions, and he got more yards. I think that's going to be the same case with Chris Olave. Chris Olave might not be a better receiver than Michael Thomas when fully healthy. However, Jameis Winston loves to push the ball down the field, and Chris Olave is going to be the guy. That's why I have him as Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I 100% agree with you. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is going to have a fantastic year, but I absolutely agree that I think Chris Olave is going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's in the best position when you look at the offensive from the wide receiver standpoint, right? You could look at Jahan Dodson and say, okay, he's got the best hands, but I don't trust Carson Wentz, right? You can go out and look at Gary Wilson. Well, Zach Wilson's going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season, and so he's going to have to rely on Joe Flacco for the first 4 years. And even though Joe Flacco is a Super Bowl champ, Joe Flacco ain't Joe Flacco anymore now that he's in New York, right? Jamison Williams would have to do crazy things in the second half of the season to even be considered for the award. So, like, it has to be Chris Olave. I do like Jerm's Dameon Pierce pick, and I do think that he could potentially steal it from Olave. But I think Olave not only is in a better position to win the award, I think he's also on a better team, and that obviously helps him a lot, is that his team overall will be doing better relative to what the Houston Texans will be doing. And so I do think that works in his favor. And Aiden Hutchinson's a game record. He's the best defensive player in the draft. And so there's that. Comeback player of the year. Oh, go ahead.
Before we go to comeback player of the year, I will say, because of Peyton's logic, that's why I didn't pick Drake London, who I think is a better receiver than Olave. But Drake London is on the Falcons with Marcus Mariota. Calvin Ridley's not there, so somebody has to catch the ball. I was extremely impressed with Drake London in the preseason, but like you said, situations matter. And I think Olave will have more opportunities to show off. But that's why I picked Dameon Pierce, because I don't know what David Sills is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I liked from him. There's some stuff that I'm like, he seems to be decent, but I think Dameon Pierce was drafted to take some of that pressure off, which to me means he'll get more opportunities to show his offensive prowess. Whereas Chris Olave or any other receiver, Drake London included, would have to is at the mercy of their quarterback. So. But I do like that pick. I like Chris Olave a lot. I think he will help that team.
Yeah. Now, I imagine for comeback player of the year, this is going to be a 3-horse race. I can't think of anyone else that would even be in the running. It's either going to be Michael Thomas, Christian McCaffrey, or Saquon Barkley. Jerm, which of those three are going to finish the season as the comeback player of the year?
Health aside, obviously all three of them would have to stay healthy, but to me, it would have to be Michael Thomas, because he's the best player of the bunch. So I will go if Michael Thomas is a fraction of what he was, and that team is winning games, because I think that's what it'll come down to. Which one of those players that was hurt, and which one of those teams is going to do the best? And I think the Saints are in position to do the best.
Payton.
Marcus, you're leaving out a guy. What about Jameis Winston? This is a quarterback league. This is a quarterback league. If we're going to say that Michael Thomas is a candidate for comeback player of the year, then Jameis Winston is equally as much a candidate for comeback player of the year. He's my comeback player of the year. I think that Jameis Winston showed a lot of promise. He was working on the things, and he was getting better at the things that he needed to get better at. Best touchdown to interception ratio of his career by far. Had the team in the playoff hunt at the time that he got injured, while beating the defending Super Bowl champions in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when he got hurt. This was a team that was poised for a playoff run. The moment he went down, the entire team changed. I think that Jameis Winston coming back is going to help the Saints. I've said this earlier in the show. I think that they're one of the most underrated teams in the league. I think the Saints are going to be an absolute problem this year, and I think that it's all going to be because of the progress and comeback of Jameis Winston, thus making him the comeback player of the year.
You're right. Shame on me. I agree. It's going to be Jameis Winston. I don't know how I forgot. You know, there's nothing. Payton and I talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it on camera or off camera at some point in this offseason, that we would both love nothing more than to see Jameis Winston before his career is over on that Super Bowl podium giving a post-game speech, because you have no idea what he's going to say. The next best thing to that would be Jameis Winston at the NFL honors, either holding the Comeback Player of the Year award, or if you listen to Bart Scott, holding the MVP trophy. Either way, listening to Jameis Winston give a thank you speech for anything, an acceptance speech for anything of some award, would be amazing. Payton, you're right. I forgot about Jameis Winston. I love Jameis Winston. I'm going to agree with you. Jameis Winston is my pick for a Comeback Player of the Year. Initially, I had Mike Thomas. That's because I just kind of forgot about Jameis Winston. But you're right. Jameis Winston, Comeback Player of the Year. There's one more thing we got to talk about, fellas, and that is that football is tomorrow. But by this time tomorrow, we will be watching.
Whoa! What about Coach of the Year? You're not going to let me go off on Sean McDermott winning Coach
Go
of
ahead.
the Year?
I'll even give you a solo shot, so you can go on and talk about how Sean McDermott's going to be the Coach of the Year.
This was tough, man. Coach of the Year. It has to be Sean McDermott, because there's nobody better than him. Nobody has the best culture. Nobody has the best bald head in sports than Sean McDermott. Nobody claps on the sideline after a 3-and-out better. Every time we get a 3-and-out, they show that shot of the bald clapper clapping his hands, and you not say, you know what? It's going to be all right. We'll get him next time. That's the power of Sean McDermott, your 2022 Coach of the Year.
I absolutely forgot that I was supposed to give Jerm the full there so we can talk about Sean McDermott. My pick is Dan Campbell.
I hope.
If the Lions win 7 games, Dan Campbell is going to be Coach of the Year, I think, in my estimation. Now, like I was saying, by this time next year, Jerm's Bills will be in LA taking on the defending champion Rams. So, before we get into our predictions for this game, is this a preview for Super Bowl 57 in Arizona? Are the Bills and the Rams going to be representing their respective conferences in this year's Super Bowl, or will we? Well, we already know that Jerm's got the Bills in the bowl, but will we see another team represent either conference in the bowl this year? Jerm, we'll start with you.
I forgot that on a show earlier this week, I predicted the Bills and Packers, and I think on this show, I think I had them as a wild card, right? So
we did. Yeah.
I did. So all right, Bills, Packers in the Super Bowl.
Lovely. Is that to stick to your guns on the pick, or is that?
Yeah. I'm not, with zero conviction. I don't care who the NFC person is. I don't care. It could be the old Tiburon team for all those old school Madden players that know what the Tiburon team is. I don't care who it is. The Bills are going to win the Super Bowl against nobody in the NFC is as good as the Buffalo Bills are. Nobody has a better roster. Nobody has a better quarterback. And so I am going with all the competition.
We have a better quarterback, but we don't have the.
No, you don't. Not anymore. This guy's licking toes.
No, we don't. You're right. Let me stop it. No, we don't.
Fucking tree sap out of random trees in like Dubai or wherever the hell he'd been on some random island in around the equator. Who knows what he's doing? Aaron Rodgers, as the dominant force as he's been, is over. I would take Josh Allen today over Aaron Rodgers today. Obviously, I don't think Josh Allen is as great as Aaron Rodgers is in totality. Just like, Tom Brady voted #1 player in the NFL. Ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing. He's 47,000 years old. Like, it's enough. It's so.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Buffalo Bills, and I'll go with the Packers in the NFC.
Payton, who you got representing the AFC and the NFC in the Super Bowl this year? And I guess give your pick, too.
Okay. Well, I don't have the Bills or the Rams representing the AFC or the NFC in the Super Bowl. In the NFC,
way to be different, Payton's been really different today.
I like it.
Just a show of difference. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, maybe I'm the gambler now. Earlier you said maybe I'm the gambler now. So, all right. Originally, I had the Bucs and the Chargers at the beginning of the offseason. I'm sticking with the Chargers in the AFC because, I'm just sticking to my guns on the Chargers. The Bucs, now with the injuries on their offensive line, I'm not so sure about them. And with the situation surrounding Brady missing time in training camp, I don't know what's going on with him. It does scare me a little bit. I think Brady, of course, will be ready to play, but it scares me a little bit to say that they're going to be the favorites to come out of the NFC. So in the NFC, I am going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I don't have them winning the division, but I think that they're going to get hot at the right time. I think that obviously it's going to take time with a first-year head coach for the offense to completely gel together, and I think that that's going to lead to them peaking at just the right time of the season and keep that energy and roll throughout the playoffs. This is a high-powered offense. This is a defense that is young and improving, and I think the Minnesota Vikings will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl against the Chargers in the AFC. Now, who do I have winning? I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think that Justin Herbert is just going to have that kind of magical year, and I think that everything is going to be rolling right for the Chargers this year, barring, any outside setbacks like injury, of course. But on paper, yes, I think that this is the year for the Chargers to make a Super Bowl run.
The Bills in the Super Bowl have been saying that since last year's Super Bowl. For the past 6.5 months, though, I've been screaming that we're going to get Bills, Rams in the Super Bowl this year. I don't think the Rams are going to make the Super Bowl. I'm not going to go the Chris Canty route. I don't think the 49ers are going to make the Super Bowl either. And I'm not going to be a homer and say the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl. I don't think the Packers are going to make it to the Super Bowl either. I do strongly believe, though, in my heart of hearts and in my gut,
don't you say it,
that the New Orleans Saints are going to be in the Super Bowl this year. I firmly believe that. I really, 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 really do. And I get it. Jameis is the quarterback, and you can lock him in for 15 picks at least this season, I guess. But I'm really, really, really sold on this defense. I'm really sold on what this offense can look like as a whole. I think the one thing I've always said, and from the moment they named Jameis to start last season, the one thing I said was Jameis is obviously not a better quarterback than Drew Brees, obviously. But Jameis Winston's unwavering desire to push the ball down the field makes the Saints so much more explosive than they've ever been, really, with Drew Brees. When you add on to the fact they have Alvin Kamara in the backfield, that makes the running game explosive, obviously, because he's in my opinion, a top 5 back in the NFL. This is a team that I think could once again, because they've done it before, this is a team that I think could once again boast a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. This is a team that causes matchup problems for every team in the NFC, every single team. If it's the Bucs, we're talking about the defensive line, could be an issue. If it's the Cowboys, you're talking about the run game. If it's the Eagles, you can talk about the run game being an issue, or the passing game, really. You look at the Rams, maybe there could be some issues there as far as the Rams are concerned because it's the Rams. The Packers, I don't care about the draft. I don't care about anything that we've done to boost the defense. I still don't think we can stop the run, and that could still be an issue this season is our inability to stop the run, and we don't have Devontae Adams. That could be issues for us as far as how good that secondary is in New Orleans. As much as I do think that the Vikings could open some eyes this season, but just make a run for it, I still don't trust their defense. I think the Saints could have a field day on the Vikings defense. So it's a crazy pick, and I am way higher on the Saints than I probably should be, and probably extremely higher than the next guy. But I do actually think, the more that I think about it, that the New Orleans Saints could be the team that represents the NFC in Super Bowl 57 this season. So, with that being said, the first game of the NFL season, like I said, officially kicks off tomorrow, 8:20, Thursday Night Football, ring night in LA. Jerm's Bills takes on the LA Rams. Jerm, we don't have to ask, but we're gonna ask, who's winning opening night? Bills, Rams, and just for some fun, throw a score on there for us.
Yo, 41-14 Buffalo Bills.
Good.
Making a statement. Hey, all you guys out there that want to talk all that nerdy shit, pre-snap disguises, Josh Allen isn't accurate, all this nonsense. Let me tell you, the biggest, strongest, fastest guy always wins. The Rams ain't got nothing for Buffalo. Rams ain't got nothing for Buffalo. The Rams may have the best defensive player, but the Buffalo Bills have the better defensive unit. The Rams may have studs on offense. Van Jefferson ain't walking through that door. He's hurt. He's already out for the game. OBJ ain't hobbling out on the floor or on the field, so he's not even there, right? So what do you got? You have Cooper Kupp. Is Cooper Kupp that dude to beat the double coverage? Let me tell you, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills are pissed off. They had all off season to think about that 13 seconds. They had to watch Joe Burrow go out there and play in a Super Bowl that they should be in, because the Bills would have went to that AFC title game and they would have won against whoever they were playing there. And then they saw the Super Bowl. Buffalo Bills, last time they played the Rams, scraped them. Go check the score. Scraped them. And that's what's going to happen this time. The Buffalo Bills have no weakness. The Buffalo Bills, now, I did predict the Buffalo Bills would start this season coming up slow. That ain't going to start this game. But after their week 7 bye, they have a 9-game stretch against teams that are all below 500. They're going to run through those guys. So the Buffalo Bills might start off slow, but it definitely ain't going to be this game. This is the tone setter game. This is the game that says, because this game is against the Super Bowl champs in LA where the Super Bowl was played. This is the Bills Super Bowl. This is where the Bills are going to prove to the world that they are the true Super Bowl champions, or at least worthy of being Super Bowl champions. So they're here to make a statement. Matthew Stafford, they say his elbow's fine, but you don't go 1 week from saying it's a serious elbow injury to I'll be good all season. You know, like it's just, what is it? What's gonna, one bad hit could end that whole thing to me. Yeah. So yeah, I'm down with that, man. I'm down. 41-14 Buffalo, LA, trouble in LA.
Payton,
shout out to Steve A. Smith in the comments. He says, no way Jerm is serious. Serious as cancer, my brother. As serious as cancer. Buffalo Bill. And just because he said that, what's 41 plus 7? Whatever that is. Add 40,
48.
48-14 Buffalo.
I want to ask you, Payton, if you agree with the scores. I'm going to assume you don't think it's going to be a shellacking of the Los Angeles Rams on ring night. But it's not going to be ring night because they have their rings already. Banner night, I guess. Do you agree with the pick? Are the Buffalo Bills going to go into SoFi Stadium and spoil the season opener for the current reigning, defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams?
Yes, I think they 100% will. I think that I'm very high on Buffalo this year. If it's not the Chargers, it's going to be Buffalo. And I love Josh Allen. I've loved him since he's entered the NFL. If you asked me back in the day, I would have drafted him number 1 overall, and he would be a Cleveland Brown right now. Okay, and everyone who knows me back then knows that was the truth. I always thought Josh Allen was the truth, and I love that it's all coming to fruition. And also, the Rams have had a lot of weird stuff going on this offseason. I mean, you had Matthew Stafford's elbow injury. You have the question marks surrounding Von Miller leaving. The defense is a little bit different. It's hard to repeat as Super Bowl champions. It's hard to capture that same magic in back-to-back years. That's why we see it happen so rarely in the NFL as opposed to other sports. So, yes, I have the Bills going in, and I have them beating the Rams. I mean, you have Aaron Donald having roid rage in practice and clobbering dudes over the head with just a couple weeks ago. You have the end of the world and some rare, weird mystery injury to Matthew Stafford's elbow that all of a sudden is, like Jerm said, fine now. I'm not buying it. I think that the Buffalo Bills are ready to play, and I don't think the Rams are ready to play, and I think that I'm going to take Buffalo to win 31-14. 28-24 on Thursday night.
I agree. At first, I thought the Rams. I was like a couple weeks, like a month or so ago. I was like, I think the Rams definitely set the tone with a strong win at home against a more than viable opponent in the Buffalo Bills. There's just no way the Rams can win. The Rams are going to be ferocious. They're going to be hungry. Matt Stafford's got an elbow problem. It doesn't even have to be a hit. Dude falls the wrong way. His elbow could be done, and that could be the game. I don't think it's going to be 48-14. I do think it's going to be a close one. I'll say 27-24. But I do think, though, that the Bills are going to start their season off with a strong, convincing, meaningful win against the Rams, which is, despite how great and how phenomenal Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and the Bills have been over the past couple seasons, the one minor issue with the Bills is sometimes in meaningful games, they don't show up. They're going to erase all of that from my memories starting tomorrow night in SoFi with a very meaningful win against the defending champion defending Super Bowl champion LA Rams. And as Jerm said, the same building where the Super Bowl was played. This could very well be the Bills Super Bowl. Just, 7 months too late, but it's fine. They'll treat it just the same.
Moral victories, though. Moral victories. It's an early monkey to get off your back. Like you can you can get this victory and move on with the rest of your season where you put the world on notice. Now that you're on notice, we can go about our season. The law of averages, man. The Bills got better this offseason. The Rams got worse. The Von Miller, I believe, like by numbers, was their best defensive lineman in terms of rushing. Like
he was.
A lot of that is they had to double team Aaron Donald, and not as much. He was beating a lot of one-on-one coverages, but the numbers are what the numbers are. You lose that, it's to me, they're like Payton was also saying, there's a lot going on with their off season. I don't know how Aaron Donald wasn't suspended, man. This guy was going Conan the Barbarian at practice.
Because apparently, and I didn't know this, but apparently anything that happens in training camp, like training camp fights and stuff, is a team decision and not an NFL decision. Apparently, Rams.
Lucky him. Lucky LA.
All right. But I feel like in that scenario, the NFL definitely steps in and say, look, you can't be swinging two helmets at players.
Yeah, a fight is a fight, but you're swinging a helmet at people.
Swinging helmets is completely different. Crazy. Yeah. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate Payton. Of course, I appreciate Jerm for coming on the show. Before I let these guys plug, tomorrow night, before football, Payton and I will be debuting the Rundown with Payton and Marcus over on Payton's YouTube channel and possibly, maybe the Facebook associated with G.O.A.T Talk with Marcus. So if you guys want to check it out, it'll be there. It will definitely be on Payton's YouTube channel. It might be on my Facebook. But so make sure you guys head over to Payton's YouTube channel, subscribe, set the reminder that you guys can be there 7:30 Eastern Standard Time for the debut episode of the Rundown with Payton and Marcus. It's going to be great. 30 minutes from 7:30 to 8, and then we're going to get you out there so that you guys and so that we can sit home, relax on our couches, and watch the official return of football with Bills and Rams. Payton, let everybody know where they can find all of your other content for the Payton Doyle Show and all that good stuff.
You can find me pretty much everywhere at PD Sports. My Twitter handle is at PD Sports now. My Instagram handle is at PD Sports. TikTok at PD Sports. YouTube at PD Sports. And that's where you're going to find me. Like Marcus said, what do I have coming up next? That show, The Rundown with Payton and Marcus. That is going to be the next big thing. It's going to be over there on my YouTube channel live tomorrow night at 7:30. It's going to be a 30-minute show, all things sports. Of course, we're going to preview Thursday Night Football a little bit, and we're going to get right in. We're going to get you guys out of there before Thursday Night Football. A nice 30-minute show, rundown of all our sports. Here are our opinions, here are our takes, and that's going to be it. I'm very excited for it.
And when we say all things sports, we mean all things sports. We got Serena Williams on there. We got a whole bunch of other stuff. I won't spoil the show for you, but anything sports related that's major, just know we're going to talk about it tomorrow. Jerm, let everybody know where they can find you and Bert and stuff about sports.
Before we do that, congratulations on 200 episodes. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of it. That's excellent. I'm big fans of me and Bert and the whole network. Big fans of yours. Payton too. You two are the future. I really enjoy the work that both of you do. Hashtag stuff about sports in your Googles. You'll find us on anywhere you get your pods, audio. And then the @Give Us a Shot network YouTube page, hashtag Give Us a Shot in your Googles, and you'll find all the links there. Me and Bert, we just did an episode the other night. Bucket of Doom has returned, so you could go check us out at Stuff About Sports on Instagram to check those picks. And yeah, man, we'll be back next week recapping NFL Week 1. And that's
Absolutely.
and now this is like the new season for all of us, right? It's all NFL talk all the time. So NFL heavy until baseball season or baseball playoff season.
Yeah, it's going to be spectacular. Thank you, Jerm. Thank you, Payton, for coming on the show. Of course, it's always a pleasure. We celebrated 200 episodes and dove into football. I don't have the official count, but I was just peeking at the live counter that for the view. We have a thing on here. We can see how many viewers are watching live. At once, there was 126 people watching at once, which is the most we've ever had watching the show at one time. If that's accurate, and if YouTube counts all that views, that means that from totality, from episode 1 to now episode 200, we've officially crossed the 10,000 views mark total for the channel, which is massive. So if that is the case, thank you guys for 10,000 total views on the channel. On to the next 10,000. You guys know where to find me. Obviously, you guys are watching here on YouTube. You can follow on Facebook, search up my name, or search up the show, Goat Talk Marcus. Find me on Twitch at Goat Talk Pod, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, GTP Marcus on everything. iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcast. You're going to find it. It's been a busy week, dating back since Saturday. We posted an episode every day of the week. Clash of the Castle on Saturday. Did 3 small little extension offseason episodes each day this week. Obviously, we're here now celebrating 200. Tomorrow, we're getting, or not tomorrow, Friday, we're getting away from football for just a bit to talk basketball. I had my guy Martin Sories come back on the show to talk about some things that happened in the world of the NBA over the past couple weeks and things like that. So, and again, like I said, the debut of the Rundown with Payton and Marcus, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time tomorrow night on Payton's YouTube channel. We'll post the link and all that stuff as we usually do with all our regular shows so that you guys can watch it, tune in, get you guys in and out 30 minutes so that you guys can sit down and get comfortable for Thursday Night Football, which kicks off, I believe, at 8:20 on NBC. So for Jerm of Stuff About Sports and Payton Doyle of the Payton Doyle Show, this is Marcus of Go Talk with Marcus. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for the support through 200 episodes and unofficially for 10,000 total views from 1 to now. And as always, you guys enjoy the rest of your lives.